Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, baby girl.
I wish people could see the eyes that you're giving me. It's not just your voice, it's the whole
Can
look.
I tell you something?
Okay, creepy McCreeperson.
Baby, I just want you to know that I like you a moderate amount. It's just
good.
adequate enough for a long-term commitment. I mean every word of that. Are you wooed now? Mm-hmm.
I'm so wooed. Wow, that like really got my heart. I feel so emotional.
Yeah, if you're out there listening and you're single, this is how you hook a lady.
Yeah.
Just like that. You woo them with your words.
Yeah.
I'm like a wordsmith, a romance wordsmith. Anyways.
You know what? Well, this episode is going to be about pickup lines that will totally help you find the person of your dreams.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No. Could be disastrous. Oh, by the way, guess what?
What?
We have over 2 million downloads.
Ah!
Yeah, it's
that
pretty...
was not a good yell. That was like
No, you would have. Yeah,
dying.
you were already blowing out my levels though there. So
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That's amazing.
Over 2 million downloads.
It's really cool because downloads are a very small percentage.
Because of listeners like you.
Well, I don't know if podcast people out there who listen know this.
Yeah.
But downloads are actually a pretty small percentage of how many listens you have.
Right. That's correct. Because
I very rarely download a podcast.
No, you just hit play on
unless
your
I'm going on a plane.
podcast app. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But we have some faithful and wonderful subscribers.
Yeah, they're our favorite.
Yeah, the rest of you, whatever.
We don't care about you either. We have moderate commitment to you as well.
Wait, that's a compliment.
Yeah, I know. That's very exciting. It
Yeah.
feels amazing that people have been on the journey. And I think I've loved hearing stories of it impacting people's lives and also people supporting us in some really raw I mean, like, I think when we started this podcast, we had no idea the journey we were about to go on.
No. We were sideswiped by some crazy journey stuff.
Some crazy.
But what's really cool is I feel
stuff.
really loved by the people. Like, we've had so much support, not only people being like, this is how I was affected, but let me tell you, like, they would reach out to us and give gifts, words of affirmation, help, like, out of nowhere. We have been like, I actually don't want to talk about it too much because I can feel myself getting emotional.
Oh, I see the tears in your eyes.
I was like, I feel deeply, deeply loved by the people who have committed to us as much as we've committed to like sharing our journey.
Yeah, it's been an act of love, I think, for us, considering the season that we've been in.
Yeah.
Of me being so sick and so many things happening, like the consistency you've had to make sure that this happens all the time is amazing. But also, that being said, the amount that people have responded and loved on us, and it's been a miraculous way to feel like I still get to be involved in the world when I was so sick.
Yeah, it was a really cool way.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, it's been a really good run.
And we're ending.
We're not. No, we're not. I was going to say it's been a really good run and it's going to continue to be a good run. In fact, it's going to be a great run.
It's going to get better. We are about to release a series on this podcast that I'm so excited for.
It's going to blow your mind.
I think it's going to change the world.
Leave some nosebleeds.
I really honestly believe that.
So with that said, today to kick off our over 2 million downloads, we want to celebrate all the singles out there.
All the singles.
Yeah, to point out, we're going to come in and we're going to join alongside you inside of your journey and talk to you about why you're so messed up. And why it's kind of hopeless for you to get...
It's all your fault.
A significant other.
Wouldn't that be the
worst? They're joking, right? Right? And then we just
Everybody
keep going
has already just like all the singles have immediately clicked off. I can't do it. They're already crying. They're like, I know, I already feel that way. me.
I think being single, we want to talk about singlehood and maybe some of the things that are barriers or hurdles or mountains or molehills that
or roadblocks
or stumbling blocks. Yeah. In your way that are keeping you from really some of the things that you really want. And we don't have all the answers. We're not here to give you a list of our answers. We're here to give you kind of a 30,000 foot view of some of our insights of what we've experienced with people, hopefully kind of judgment free.
Yeah.
But we're going to go down a list of things like personality and looks and hygiene and
that is not what we will be doing.
Abby had a blank stare in a second. She's like, wait, what's he saying?
I know. I was like, where's he going? Well, I've
actually heard a lot of people talk about those things where I'm like, those are so... some of those things can play a role.
Hygiene is a real thing.
Yeah, they definitely can play a role inside of it. But a lot of it is very surface level. Like, I think if you cover some of the surface level stuff, that's great. Gives you a little foot up and stuff. But there's really a lot of internal stuff that's a driving force. And we kind of want to look at some of those things.
Yeah. Before I jump into the opening spiel I'm about to give, I do just want to say we just did a live Q&A for our Living Fully Alive immersion program this past week, and it was so powerful. So many people were crying and connecting and being vulnerable and wide open, and we also just had a couple of people who've done the immersion program and Living Fully Alive talk about how they've met their best friends, the type of people they've wanted to do life with forever. And I've just been feeling really thankful, and I feel really, really thankful to be a part of people getting to come alive, be honest, be heard, be seen, be loved. And I just wanted to share this before we jump into the single episode. We are about to start releasing a new project that we've been working on that's going to be phenomenal for singles and marrieds and helping them create healthy relationships. So I just wanted to let you guys know it's coming.
Ooh, yeah, it is.
It's coming.
Yeah, it is.
Let's get your little appetites growing for that. Now, I wanted to talk about my thoughts about this episode. I came up with this episode, which I was very surprised by. Like, I was just laying in bed thinking, what is it that I think the world needs to hear? And singleness is what came to my mind. But maybe because we've spent years working with a lot of single people.
Yeah.
I've had lots of single friends. I actually really enjoy my single friends a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. My married friends are a nightmare sometimes.
Well, I just think
they just stopped living and gave up.
Well, that's
what relationship will do to you.
I wanted to start with, I know that there's all kinds of people in singleness. And so please don't get offended. There's so many different reasons why people are single.
Yeah, a lot of nuances.
Yes. And so what I'm wanting to do is not make anyone feel defined or generalized in this. But I have met lots of people who have shame about being single or feel less than or lower class. And I understand that feeling because I had to go through that feeling about having kids. Like, am I less than? If everybody around me is doing this, am I less than because I don't fit in? Or that feeling of I don't belong the same way that they do. And I think I just want to say from my perspective, I love having single friends. Yeah. I love having friends who are available and have fun. I love having married friends also, and I love having friends with kids, but I just wanted to specifically validate that I never feel like my single friends have less to offer my life.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
They especially have ample time.
Fun. Adventure. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that. Like, if you're single, the people around you might actually really enjoy. Like, I want my friends to get married if they want to get married, but I've never thought. I also don't want to lose
single friends.
No, me neither.
Yeah, like I'll bless them as they go on into their married experience, but
they're fun.
I want to keep cycling them in my life.
Yes. Yeah, so just so you guys know, single people out there, you're indispensable. And we do love you when you find your loves as well.
Well, why are they single, Abby?
Well, I wanted to talk about this because I think that sometimes this is a hard topic to cover. I think about it a lot, like me being sick. And I remember when I was sick, everybody had a reason for it. right? You know, like,
yeah, you're sick because of X, Y, and Z.
You're sick because of how you eat. You're sick because of your emotions. You're sick because of this belief system you have. You're sick. Like, everybody has a reason. Oh, if you just fix this, you'll probably...
everything will go away and it'll all be better. Mm-hmm.
And for somebody who had been sick, I've been sick for years and years and years, trying, like, hearing a new thing that I'm not doing right.
Oh, yeah. It was debilitating. So
disheartening. Yeah. And all I could feel was like, I'm trying so hard. I've tried everything.
Why are you telling me I'm failing yet again?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I've done all the things.
The feeling of feeling like this thing that is so painful for me is my fault is overwhelming. And I remember actually when I was sick feeling like single people and me got it. Like we got each other.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean that. Like on a
comrades.
Deep, like there was an understanding that I had, because I think health for me felt like there's a lot of things you can proactively do. Mm-hmm. And then there's some things you're out of control in.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel that way with singleness. There's a lot of things you can practically do, and there's some things you're out of control in.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of my friends who like really, really want to be married and are doing a lot of the practical things and feel out of control and that balance. And so I don't want anyone to feel condemnation by what we're going to share about, or like, it's all your fault. See, you're ruining it. You're the whole reason that you're single. But there is this sense that I have around a lot of people where they actually, so when I would find out something about my body that I could change, it felt empowering. Right. Like, oh, I may not have power over everything, but I do have power over this.
And this could benefit me.
And anything that could benefit me feels helpful.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we're going to do a practical investigation into some of the things that might be the stumbling blocks.
Might be contributing to why you are single.
Yeah. So go ahead. What do you have to say?
Oh, I thought you were about to take over.
No. I want you to...
make the bed and lie in it?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you started off.
Okay, well... The first thing, and I think I have a lot of compassion for this, is avoidant attachment styles.
Ooh.
And so these are just some of the themes that we've seen along the journey of working with people. And you're going to recognize that some of these fit your circumstance and some of these don't fit your circumstance. Take and leave. It's a buffet.
Golden Corral.
That just took me back to like all of the things that I loved there. You could eat as much as you wanted.
Yes, you could.
Okay, so avoidant attachment style is basically when you are stressed or you feel triggered or scared, you go into being independent and wanting to be alone and separating. So like we had Ruth on here. She's an avoidant attachment style.
Yeah, and she's like, hasta la vista, bitches. And she's out. Where'd Ruth go? Oh, she's avoidant attaching right now.
Like if she is stressed out, she's going to go like write a paper for her college degree she's getting or whatever. She's going to go do something on her own.
Yeah, I turtle.
Yeah, you do. You're an avoidant also. 100%. Where then there's me. And when I get stressed, I kind of do both. But they're the people who date everybody. So there's two kinds of, like, you either avoid dating or you are the person that has to be dating all the time. And then there's a third kind of person, which is, in between those.
Oh, okay. Sure. What about these avoidant attachers?
So avoidant attachment basically often has to do with their childhood. Most of the reasons people are single and stuck in cycles of singleness have to do with childhood. And that's why it's really important to be able to look at your childhood and see what it is that you're running from.
Yeah.
So avoidant attachment really is fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not getting needs met. So they've learned I can just meet all of my needs on my own. So there's a real, I've met a lot of singles that have a real self sufficiency.
Mm-hmm. Did you say fear of control?
No.
In that list? That's another one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You ain't gonna control me. Nah. I'm out of here. Peace.
You can't tell me what to do. Yeah. So, but the idea would be with, I lost what I was saying now that you jumped into your...
With avoidant attachment?
Yeah. Just that self-sufficiency. The idea like I'm better at doing things on my own, which is all like...
I'm better off.
Yeah. And it's not bad to be powerful as a single person and to be comfortable doing things on your own and to not feel like you need someone. I'm not talking about that, but there's a place where it's actually like one of the ways you hide.
Yes.
And I would say like you've had to work through this a lot.
Oh, absolutely. It was very easy for me to hide behind self-sufficiency, which is different than healthy capability. And we've talked about this before in the past. Healthy capability says I have the capacity to do something and I know how to find answers and evolve and create whatever, create a life around me. But I choose to allow people in to participate in my journey in a way that's very vulnerable and allows for me to be affected. Whereas that self-sufficiency says, hey, I got this all on my own. I'm never going to let anyone too close in. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I don't want anyone to take from me, hurt me, any type of negative effects that I could experience. I'm going to house myself in the middle of an island and keep protected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those things are kind of, and we're going to go into why you could be avoidant attachment. And that's actually one of the projects we have coming up is talking through attachment styles.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to do a deep dive and help people create secure attachments. But a lot of avoidant is fear around.
Super fear-based.
And so I remember when I was single back in the day, I had so much fear about marriage.
I did too. In fact, I was convinced I would never get married, also with a deep desire for marriage.
Yes, absolutely.
My fear of marriage was the thing that was protecting me from all the other fears coming true.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have something that they witnessed in their family or a cycle they don't want to repeat from their family or something they're scared of, like, well, my mom always married men who used her, or my parents fought all the time and were miserable.
My dad was dominated by my mom and never had a voice, and he ceased to exist the minute he got married.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many. Yeah. Do you have more?
No, I mean, there's a huge offense towards the institution of marriage oftentimes because we wrongly have accused that institution of marriage as the culprit for the pain inside of our experiences rather than the pain inside of the individuals in that experience. So here you have two individuals that have pain inside of their scenarios and they're reacting out of their pain to one another through avoidant attachment, which is one style, and anxious attachment and other various things. And all of a sudden you see explosions.
Yeah.
And you see those explosions so often that you go, this wasn't fun for me. I don't want to ever have to do this. Or this looked like torture for one of my parents. I don't want to have to be that person. But ultimately, one of the things I think you said is you talked about the fear of being powerless. I don't know if you said that yet. But that's what happens inside of the marriage context is we believe that suddenly we become powerless to another individual and that our destiny is now set in motion based on their actions and reactions.
Which really means that we haven't learned how to be powerful. So one of the things I was thinking is a lot of people who have a subconscious avoidant, so I think lots of single people consciously want to get married.
Yeah.
And might subconsciously have some avoidance. I mean, I consciously had avoidance. But so one of mine was like fear of conflict. Like my parents' relationship, their anger explosions at each other felt so horrible. I don't want to be trapped with somebody that I have to do anger explosions with my whole life.
Yeah.
And so instead of being like, oh, you know what I could do is I could learn how to do conflict. I could learn how to practice it with people. I could practice it with lots of people so that I get good at conflict.
Yeah.
And when I'm good at conflict, I would also attract a partner that's good at conflict.
Yeah.
And when I attract a partner that's good at conflict, then I feel really connected and able to work through things. And then I have less fear about it.
Wait, so I'm just curious. I don't know if I understood this right. Are you trying to say that we can actually shape the course of our destiny? That we could proactively do something to shape our lives?
Yeah.
No,
I know it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And this is one of the things, like if you look at what your parents did, like let's say my mom was really codependent with my dad. And so if you're like, I'm terrified of marriage because then I'm going to be trapped being codependent with somebody, then that is like, oh, well, how do I practically in the relationships I have right now work at not being codependent so that I can feel powerful inside of that relationship? Like, it's one of those things. What is it that I'm afraid that I'm going to repeat from my childhood?
Yeah.
And then what steps can I do to feel powerful in those areas so that I can actually consciously begin to say, no, I'm not going to have a marriage like my parents because I'm learning how to do conflict. No, I'm not going to have a marriage like my parents because I'm learning to have a voice for my needs. No, I'm not actually going to be afraid of marriage because I've learned that I'm allowed to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Did I say set boundaries twice?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not paying attention. Maybe. No, I'm kidding. You know, one of the things that I was kind of chewing on as you were talking is how for me, I was definitely felt very debilitated in the idea of marriage and stuff like that. And I know that it'd be easy for me if I had heard this message back then, before I got married, to think that I have to get to a perfect place before I start the marriage.
Very good. This is so good.
I would easily sit and listen to this and go, okay, now I need to learn how to get really good at conflict, and we keep pushing marriage off. And I need to learn how to overcome this cycle in my life,
right,
so that I don't attract this person. And we can get really in our heads trying to protect ourselves from pain.
Totally.
Instead of going, you know what? No matter what I do, somehow I'm going to still attract somebody that's probably part of my life that's unresolved. Even if I think I check all the boxes, I'm going to find out, oh my God, they so represent whoever this person was in my life.
Totally.
But what we get to do is, going into it, know that my lifelong journey is going to be about me discovering who I truly am, finding freedom inside of my own heart, developing the skills and tools to be an empowered adult and stuff like that. And I can just start it. Like Abby and I started it together in a very messy place.
Oh yeah. Freaking messy.
Deeply messy place. But what we did is there was a sense of us smashing into each other repeatedly that demanded, there was like this invitation that demanded us to find health, find transformation, and to find it together, and then to heal together. I mean, we've been in a pretty deep season of healing inside of our marriage over a lot of the stuff that happened through the formative years of our marriage. And sometimes it's really not fun.
Yep.
And it's really heavy. But it's really beautiful because I'm like, I would have had to work this out with someone.
Totally.
And I'm really glad that you're the one that I get to work it out with.
Aww.
Yeah, like I said, I moderately like you.
I think what you said was so good is so what I think about with singleness is sometimes we put a force field out of that pushes relationships away. And it's either a fear force field, like I'm scared that that you're going to destroy me, you're going to control me, you're going to whatever it is. Or like you just said, it can be the force field of I have to be perfect before this happens.
Yeah.
Anytime we have a belief that I'm not ready yet, our life it feels like easily can prove that.
Yeah. It'll perpetually keep people out of our world.
And so the goal would be this self-acceptance of I can keep working on growing without condemning myself for where I'm at. And the more I accept that I'm imperfect, I wish I could. This is the one thing that I think the last few years have really nailed. I'm like, I am so screwed up.
Yeah.
If we could just all admit it. If we could just all admit it. Like if everybody could have their blinders taken off and realize we're all real effed up. We all are trying to get love and belonging and acceptance and security. We all want those things. Yeah. We're all trying to avoid pain.
Most of us, yeah. No, I'm good though.
I mean, like, and so my idea is like, it's not that once I stop being codependent, then I'll be lovable. Or once I stop shopping online when I freak out about something, then I'll be lovable. Like whatever the thing is that we are frustrated. Once I stop yelling when I'm upset, then I'll be lovable. Like, and just being like, okay, I am where I'm at in my journey and I am loving myself in this process. I accept myself here. If as single people, you can accept where you're at, like that loving compassion that can be partnered with also I want to grow.
Well, and I do want to say this. I think the idea of acceptance is sometimes widely misunderstood. And there's a lot of controversy around the word, unspoken controversy of like, what does that really mean to accept oneself? I think it's a compassionate understanding of where we're at and the grace for the process of growth and development.
Oh, I just want to make out with you right now. That's not something I should say on the single episode. They're like, I want someone to make out with too, Abby.
Yeah.
That was very well articulated.
That's where we let go of this harsh edge towards ourselves. Mm-hmm. Just go, okay, yeah, this is where this is where I'm at, and I can understand that this is how I got here, and I'm learning and I'm growing.
Yeah,
and I'm going to be kind about that, and I'm going to continue to move forward.
I know that I have like several clients that I work with that I've had to work with a lot of self-compassion for why they're single. I mean, like, yeah, so a couple of them are women and a couple of them are men, but like the men, I'm like, yeah, you had moms that were abusive and dominating and scary. It makes sense that committing to a woman feels overwhelming and scary to you.
Yeah.
Like you actually have to validate how much it affected you to be able to have compassion. Like, hey, actually, it really affected that little boy when he didn't know if he was going to get beat or not, when he was called names all the time, when he always felt like he was trying his hardest, but it was never enough. Like that would make your internal coding system tell you that being married to a woman is terrifying. You'll never be enough. You'll always feel like you're trying. You'll never be safe. You'll never like, it's such deep subconscious wiring for us.
And especially when you haven't seen it done well.
Yeah.
So like if you haven't been around marriages or relationships
that were healthy,
that you're like, okay, but even though this happened to me, I saw an actual model very present in front of me, so I can begin to disarm this stuff. Oftentimes we don't even have the model, so we don't know that it exists. It's like telling someone that there's an ocean when they've like only seen a stream and been like, what's an ocean? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist, does it? But so you're not bad if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that you can accept it. You can see it and accept it. Like what I would do if I was single right now is be like, yeah, I have a lot of triggers around a lot of things. And I'm going on the process of healing, and I'm worthy of love while I'm not fully healed yet.
Yeah.
And actually beginning to have, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't not believe that. But we would say, if you are not having relationships that move towards commitment, there's probably a subconscious belief that is holding you back. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but so it's helpful to give yourself permission to explore, what is it that I'm scared of? What is it that I'm avoiding? What is it that I feel like will happen to me if I find myself in this case?
Yeah, it's like it's that, isn't it? That's that conscious versus subconscious belief system. So your conscious wiring in your brain might be like, no, like for me, when people ask me, what do you think about marriage? It's interesting because my first thing I'd say is like, oh, marriage is this place where people get to connect and it's this great thing and romance is exchanged. That was my logical consciousness.
I literally heard you say that when I met you.
And then my subconscious, when I started asking, like, what do I actually feel deep down in my gut? Like if I were to be honest, and then I'd hear that voice be like, marriage is where you go to die. Marriage is where you go to die. It's all going to fall apart. It's going to be horrible. They're going to control you. And then it was just this flood of emotions that would come out of that. And that's really the thing that we need to be able to investigate. But oftentimes we're very barricaded into our logic. And obviously, if you've been listening with The Connected Life, you're on a journey of connecting to your emotions.
Yeah.
But as you get out from behind the barrier of your logic, that's where your true belief system exists in your gut. That's kind of like driving you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another fear that comes up a lot is fear of sexuality.
Oh, that's a really big one. That's a confusing area for a lot of people. And there's not a lot of models around it.
And there's a lot of different things. There's people who are terrified their partner will have an affair on them. There's people that are terrified they're not pretty or handsome enough. There's people who feel inadequate. There's all the men who have penis size issues.
Fear of inadequacy inside of the bedroom.
I was like kind of kidding, but like, yes, I actually meant it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of guys that are like, I don't know if I feel adequate with my ween.
Yeah. And all the women who are like, I don't know if I feel adequate with my body.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of fear, and then there's a lot of cultural ideas about sex.
What it has to look like.
And so then there's a lot of like, oh, well, I mean, I was terrified of sexuality when I was single, and so I neutered a lot of it.
Yeah. I felt terror. I wouldn't have called it fear of this, but at the underlying is fear. But I used to be like, I'll never let a woman have sexual power over me.
I mean, that's still a thing you feel.
Well, but there was this fear. There was especially a deep fear that like women, I observed what it felt like as I observed men being controlled by women's sexuality.
Right.
And then they lost all their power to that.
Yeah.
And so there was just this deep fear inside of that.
Yeah. And so we're often reacting. And so I know some people, like a lot of people I know in their singleness kind of shut off their sexuality.
Yeah.
Or shut off that thing where I'm like, do you feel attractive? Do you feel confident? Do you feel connected to your sexuality? Do you think that your sexuality is valuable and good and beautiful and powerful? And there's so many beliefs around sexuality.
Even what you might do with your sexuality.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think you said this, but I was just thinking like, oh, I'm terrified if I allow myself to have a sexuality that I'll abuse it and abuse other people.
Yeah.
Fear of ourselves and our sexuality, of what it might do to hurt others.
Yeah, I think there's kind of like a couple extremes in this area. There's the people who use their sexuality to always feel power over the opposite sex.
Right.
To always feel wanted, to always feel desired. The serial daters or maker outers or whatever that is.
Or sexers. Serial sexers.
Serial sexers. And then you also have the people who like literally shut it off and feel like a nun.
Yeah.
Or like a priest who like there isn't any sexual vibes they're releasing because they don't believe that they I mean, like I believed for years, I'm just missing that sexuality part.
But years later, we know that's not true, don't we?
But for me, I had to go on a journey, and it was like years long of seeing sexuality as a beautiful thing, of seeing myself and redefining what sexy was. And I've had so many conversations with girls who kind of have just shut off their sexuality and being like, you have to define what sexy is to you. You need to feel sexy. That doesn't mean you have to dress slutty.
Right.
But what is sexy to you? For me, sexy is confident, comfortable in my own body, present in my own body, believing that that I like myself, that I accept myself, like walking into a room with my head held high, not being afraid to put my shoulders back. It's like a lot of things.
Yeah, being willing to show off some elbows, some knees occasionally.
Yeah, I remember the breakthrough day when I started showing my elbows off. It was like a big win for me. Ooh.
Look at those elbows.
But anyway, I think that there's a part of embracing sexuality. So when people are single and not moving forward, and it could be either way, that you don't date much or that you date all the time, but it never goes anywhere. Either one of those is, what is it that you believe about sexuality? So even for me, I had beliefs about sexuality and singleness. And then I had them about like, but if I get married, then I have to give up my life to have sex with my husband whenever he needs.
Right.
That was my belief. Like the only way to keep a man is to have sex every single time he wants it.
Have I ever demanded sex?
Nope.
Am I still here even when I didn't get it?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about how great it is that I found a situation where it isn't like that at all, and you've been faithful, and it's been really beautiful and healing. That was a belief system that wasn't serving me.
Yeah.
Was believing that. And there's something to be said about challenging belief systems, and I think Instagram, TV, music actually create a culture that make marriage look miserable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because so much of it is about using people, about getting your needs met, bouncing out, about being flippant. There's not country music has some good, no, I'm just kidding, some good stay with them songs. But there's just an idea that sexuality is just something that's used, not beautiful and protected.
Yeah. Really. And that's really, really difficult to navigate, especially when you're getting so many mixed messages. And you have to begin to, even for my life, I had to decide what is the defined message about life that I want to have. Different areas, whether it's marriage or singleness, and whether it's about sexuality. Everyone, there's an outward voice culturally that's trying to define all these perspectives. And we have to begin to ask, what is the perspective that I want to carry? And does it serve me? Does it create destruction in my life, my belief that I'm agreeing with, or does it end up leading towards creation, creative life forces of, oh, this is better. This brings more happiness and joy and peace in my life, even if it's difficult. Like marriage is really difficult, but it brings a sense of stability. It grows me inside of my character. It's caused me to be more of a man by being inside of a covenant relationship where I didn't choose to avoid and run away to other things. I didn't stay boyish. I actually faced my fears head on inside of it. And so marriage can be weaponized and destructive, or it can be very powerful and creative for you.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about something that comes up oftentimes is FOMO. Because I think about that. I have a lot of singles that come through my office and they're like, I'm with this amazing person. They're awesome in all these ways, but what if there's someone a little bit better off? Yeah. I mean, they might be a little bit more handsome or pretty. They might have a little bit more money or a little bit more going for them. What the what if monster?
Oh, yeah.
Keeps us totally caught. I mean, there was a day, people, when you were told who you were going to be married and you made that work. And now there's a smorgasbord of people on the internet and you're just swiping left and right and up and down and you're just going, I don't know. There could be a better meal on this tray.
It's so true.
And the reality is that,
I would say often. Oh, were you talking?
No, I was, but then you jumped in. No, I lost it now.
No,
it's go. Often what? Often what? Often what?
Often what? You're so funny. You know what? My ADD, I think, is part of why I interrupt.
Oh.
I think I realized.
I've learned how to interrupt because you taught me to interrupt.
Good. I'm so glad I could give you that skill.
Because otherwise I would have just sat and been quiet until you finished a 30-minute rant.
But I actually like being interrupted. It doesn't bother me.
No, I know. That's why I do it.
Yeah. Okay. I think FOMO also comes down to fear.
Yeah, it's fear of missing out. No, duh, Abby. Wow, you're revelational here today.
No, do you know what I'm saying? There's a fear of commitment, a fear of my needs aren't going to get met.
Correct.
A fear of maybe if my mom or dad would have married somebody different, it would have been easier. That belief system that so many of us have a belief system that if it was a different person, it would have been better.
Yeah.
Instead of being well, my parents might have showed up how they were.
Yeah. And so instead of oh, I'm scared that I'm going to miss out on something right over here, maybe there's someone better. What is it that I'm really scared of?
Yeah.
What is it that I'm really scared of that happened that I am missing out on? Because, I'm scared that I'm not going to get these needs met. I'm going to miss out on being taken care of in this way, or being heard, or being comforted or nurtured in these ways.
Yeah. And I mean, it's you shouldn't just, if you have fear of missing out, we're not saying you should just marry that person, get over that fear. Because sometimes there's good things where you're oh, I'm scared that I'll never get this need taken care of, and it's a legitimate need. I think that
one of the things that we need to understand, when we understand ourselves, we can go, what are the make or break deals?
Yeah.
I know that without a question, I need someone with this expression of personality type.
Yeah.
Of this way of relating to the world. For my background and my history, I need them to be able to love and be kind in these certain ways, or whatever it happens to be, or understanding of these certain things. And once you get that, then you can go, all right, maybe the rest of this can all be learned for us and we can adjust inside of it. Speaking of which, expectations of marriage, because we're kind of talking about what we want.
And so many people have FOMO because they believe if I find the perfect person, then I'll have a good marriage. And they believe that about God too. I've heard that so many times. Like if God tells me they're if God tells me they're the one for me, then I'll have a good marriage. Or I haven't heard from God if they're right for me yet, so I can't marry them. And it's this idea that we believe a perfect marriage exists without pain.
Yeah. And the thing is that we have a wrong idea about your ideal marriage might be vastly wrong for what marriage is meant to be. What do you think marriage is meant to be, Abby?
A place where you're chained to another person for the rest of your life.
Bound forever.
I think marriage is a place where you get a mirror of who you are and how you're showing up in the world, and an invitation to become more whole and face your stuff.
I think that's a great way to put it.
And I think marriage is an invitation to learn the lessons of love.
That is a very great way to put it.
And the lessons of love are boundaries sometimes, are communication sometimes, are forgiveness sometimes. Like there's a lot to the lessons of love. It doesn't mean that you just allow somebody to treat you crazy. That's not what we're saying.
Right. There's this idea though that marriage, so there's a side that says marriage is the institution where you go to die.
Yeah.
Then there's a side that says marriage is where all of your problems get solved, and it's the happiest place on earth where you feel the most fulfilled. And
I know so many single people who believe that.
It's idealized.
Yes.
That once
I'll finally feel safe. I'll finally feel secure. I'll finally not feel alone. I'm like, no.
No. You're gonna feel all of that intensified because there's gonna be a spotlight on it, and you're gonna have to deal with it.
But marriage is really good and wonderful for those of you who are terrified of it.
Well, no, and I agree with you. It's a liberation tool. Really is what it's meant to be. It's an invitation for liberation if you want to receive it as such. But if you want to receive it as something, as a source of where you're going to draw life from, and hope and peace and joy and everything else, you're going to be sadly mistaken, because it's an institution of humanity. Every institution, whether it be political, religious, or marriage, or whatever you want to put on it, is all filled with humans. And it comes with the messiness of humanity. And so to me, when I'm looking to you to solve my problems, to solve my pain, to be all of that, I will be always deeply disappointed and dissatisfied inside of the context of it. When I look at you as like, oh, this is somebody that I get to have a shared experience with, and we get to exchange vulnerable conversations, and we get to learn and grow. We get to have this promise that we're going to fight through this together in our messiest and most difficult moments. There's something stabilizing about that idea of a partnership. Not that we're always going to agree, and not that we're never going to fight, but that we're committed to go, I want to figure this out with you.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, I think marriage is a real gift. And if people can have realistic expectations of it, and I think when I was single, one of the things I did is I found every happily married couple I could. And I'd ask them every kind of question I could about everything. Like, what is marriage like for you? What is conflict like for you? What is like, because I needed to hear that it could be different than what I experienced. I had never, I didn't see in my family a healthy marriage. It looked traumatic. It was traumatic. And so it's the idea of looking at it and looking for healthy representations that encourage you towards it, with the understanding that, you're going to be on your journey no matter who you are. Like, both me and you felt alone in our families. Yeah. And both me and you have felt alone in areas of our marriage.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've also had a lot of healing for aloneness because of our marriage. So it is both. I'm just wanting to paint a picture for single people that it is a lot of work, and it is very redemptive, and it is very hard.
Yeah. And what it does though is it creates a sense, if we will wholeheartedly participate in it through facing our fears, and not running away. And I'm not condemning people who have exited marriage, but if we will stay in it wholeheartedly, it will begin to create a space of sacrifice right? And we'll begin to learn how to sacrifice let me back up. I watch often inside of my single friends a selfishness. I'm not like trying to generalize all of them, but there's something that you learn when you go into a covenant relationship where you go, oh, this thing right here that I thought I could get away with before isn't actually attuned to love. And I really did make this a lot about me. I don't think I'd call it a selfishness necessarily, but like, let me finish what my experience is.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Because there's not an understanding of certain levels of sacrifice, of what it comes when you're committed to someone, going like, oh, I have to lay this down over here. It's just that's not required inside of it. And it's not bad. And it's just part of the experience that happens when you get into that space. And ultimately, what it starts to develop is a maturing of love that starts happening when you have and it may not be there's some people that actually have chosen these covenant style relationships,
like
where
lifelong
it's like,
friendships.
I'm going to do this lifelong friendship no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that yes, that they have inside of their heart in that style of experience also begins to create that mature love in that commitment. But there's something deeply powerful about commitment and what it produces as far as love goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there is, I think anybody can decide to go on that journey. Like, I know, like, I think if I was single, I could figure out ways to still be in relationships enough where they were confronting me and we were having to bend to be around each other.
Not run from it.
Yeah. And I have friendships right now with single people that are like that, where I feel like they're having to learn to bend with me and I'm having to learn to bend with them to meet each other in the middle. And I feel like it can be done, but you have to be more mindful of it. It's kind of like us without kids. There's a level of selfishness that we can have because we can do whatever we want, whenever we want.
1,000%. And I know it. And I know that even when it comes to like the idea of the commitment of that, I mean, we talked a bunch about kids and things like that. And I'm like, oh my God, now that I'm older, I'll self-acknowledge. I like my selfishness.
Totally.
Like, I want this to be about me right here in this space. And I don't want to give this part of me away. And
yeah.
But there's something in the maturing of my love in that area that I don't know where I'll get it or how I'll get it. But there's a place that's not maturing in love for me yet. And I don't know when that'll come along.
I love that. That's very good. So we're with you. One thing that there's two different things I want to talk about that keep relationships away. And one of them is an FU on your head.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way that people protect themselves. And I am this type of person. When Justin met me, he said, "You are an ice queen." But there are people that like use a little bit of anger or independence or like, I'm fine, whatever. And
leave me alone.
And I always say it's like having an FU, a screw you written on their forehead. And so people just there's not an invitation. There's not a softness. There's not an openness to dating.
There's no receptivity.
Or to the opposite sex or to the people. Like there's not a like, yes, I'm open for this. I kind of think about it. If you thought about your energy being open or closed to a relationship, some people are literally closed and they're like, well, how come nobody ever pursues me? How come nobody ever wants to date me? How come nobody? And sometimes it's because you have an FU.
Yeah.
You hate men or you hate women or you hate, like there's often a place where
you're so terrified of being trapped that it's just like, nope.
Yeah.
Unconsciously.
Yeah. And all of these things are things to have compassion for yourself for.
Yeah.
Like I had an FU towards men because my dad felt so scary as a kid. And like his anger felt so threatening, not physically, but just like emotionally. And so I was like, I'll learn to be hardened to protect myself from you.
Yeah.
And I carried that hardness towards men.
Yeah.
And I had to work on softening and actually allowing myself to open up and not have such hard walls against people.
I had a friend in my early 20s that she was single and now in her mid 40s, she's still single. And there's conversations that I've observed from a distance where she's like, yeah, I just don't know, this is just my singleness and I just don't know why I'm not dating. And I'm like, but the energy has always been your walls. There are walls there. Like you could feel this sense of like, there's not a guy that could get past this. Something about you says, I'm happily single. Don't come closer.
Totally.
But the message that she sends is like, I'm looking for guys. And I'm like, that is not that. Your verbal message and your emotional message are two different things that are being admitted. And that doesn't mean she's bad. And I think that what we're talking about inside of this is like, okay, is that potentially an emotion that I'm emitting that I'm not aware of? I mean, there are so many times that I think there's emotions that I've emitted. That people are like, why are you like this? And I'm like,
so you had an FU on your head for sure, but not towards dating, but towards
male authority figures. And I was like, I don't understand. I just want like male authority figures to respect me. And then I was like, I don't get the problem here. I'm nice and respectful when I'm in their presence in the way that I talk to them. But I had a big self-protector that said, F you. Like, I'm not going to have you control me. Because I had been so controlled by male authoritarian leadership inside of the institution.
Oh, yeah.
The faith institution, that I was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So it's again, so much of what we're talking about is actually tuning into your subconscious belief systems.
Yeah.
And having compassion on why you have them, and then being able to like soften and engage with that. So I also had a friend, and I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to there. I had a friend, and what she did is she actually asked a few people that she trusted. I would say, do not do this to people who aren't in your close circle,
who don't have kindness, compassion.
Yes.
Love is
But she went around and she was like, hey, I'm still single. Can you tell me if you see reasons why? Are there reasons why you think I'm still single and not dating? And the truth is, it's a
very vulnerable act, and bold and courageous.
Yes.
I was like in awe of this.
Me too. I was too. And there's some people like that everyone can clearly be like, yeah, you're terrified of commitment because your parents like, and they just haven't seen it. And everybody kind of has their own thing. One of the things I think is people are just not engaging it. Like, I'm like, well, are you trying to date? Are you practicing dating? That's one of my most common advice is like, hey, are you engaging the dating journey? And always it's balancing your worldview. So if you always are dating, I'm like, hey, have you tried being with yourself and figuring out how to be with yourself and accepting yourself? Or if you're never dating, it's like, hey, you should practice dating, even if it's not the people you think you'll end up with, but you should just work on learning how to feel comfortable in your own skin around people you're dating. It's learning how to feel confident in the middle of conversation, whether or not you're going to end up with them. It's learning how to not have high stakes and not be locked in fear. So whatever angle you're coming from is the way you should balance. But somebody told her the kind of guys you're looking for wouldn't be attracted to you at your weight.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so ballsy. And they said it in love. They were like, I actually don't have any problems with you at your weight, but I want you to know that what you're looking for, those type of people would want somebody in a different, like who
health category,
in a different health category. So she actually took that and she was like, okay. And she started she went after getting healthy, and it didn't feel like I'm getting healthy because that's the only way to get men, because that'll be very dysfunctional.
Right.
But there was a thing of like, oh, this is a way that I can be powerful in my singleness, is I can engage this. And not because that's what I have to do to get a man or keep a man, but it is something that I can engage in.
Well, and it was also like, hey, if I have an expectation in this area.
Yes.
I'm going to have to also meet that expectation.
The same expectation
or I'm going to
I
have to shift my expectations.
Yeah. I either need to be okay with dating somebody in this category with me, or I need to be okay growing myself. So if it's like, I want to marry somebody who has a great career. Okay, cool. Also, are you working at growing in your career?
Right. If you have a value system for that, are you also participating in it?
Yeah. And again, we're not saying you have to be great at everything. You don't have to accomplish everything before you meet your person. but it is that, are there practical things? I think hygiene is a great practical thing. I think one of the things I think about working out, not working out so you have a perfect body, but working out so you feel powerful and confident.
I'm taking care of myself. I am showing up and participating in life in this area.
I'm not just letting life happen to me.
And there's practical things from just a, what do they call it? A biological level, where people want to unconsciously, biologically be in relationship with somebody that they can procreate with, that they can continue the human life cycle on. They talk about it in biology and stuff like that. That it's just part of your foundation, that if there's a draw to someone who could protect, or that could make babies, or that could be lifelong healthy partners, that there's a draw for that, because life wants to continue creating more life.
Okay. So whatever we believe is more painful is how we will live our lives. Yeah, so if you believe being alone is more painful, you'll always be dating. If you believe that dating or marriage is more painful, then you'll find yourself alone. Like, we often emotionally are avoiding whatever we think is the most painful. So if you're out there, that can be something you can begin to like say over yourself, like, actually, I don't need to be afraid of being alone. Actually, I don't need to be afraid of jumping into dating. And things like that, I think, are really important.
Yeah, I also think, as a side note, there are the people who keep repeating the same experience and finding the same person, and they keep proving their bias.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of it where people are like, hey, I've tried everything and it doesn't work out. I never find the right man. I never find the right girl. It's all this. And I'm like, but you actually haven't shifted certain things. So now you're stuck in a cycle. You have a bias of what's going to happen. It keeps being confirmed, and it keeps you in this belief system where you have to begin to go, all right, what are the things that keep me repeating this cycle? How do I get out of it? How do I choose something different? Is there another option that exists that if I change even my bias, my belief system, how can I begin to confirm that? So there's a lot of hope if you want it, but we even hold on to our biases again to keep protecting ourselves. Like, I'll stay in this cycle and I'll keep my bias up so that I don't ultimately have to go into the commitment.
Totally. Yeah. And so, like, to beat a dead horse, that's such a horrible phrase.
Yeah.
I hate that. I've used it too much. Okay.
Poor horses.
Poor horses.
Why are they all being beaten?
Why are they all dying?
Why are they dead and being kicked?
So it's so much of this is, if you can connect to yourself, and something you can do is sit down and write out all of your beliefs that you have, the conscious and the subconscious. Oftentimes, if I start brainstorming, I'll find out what I believe. It'll be like, oh, I believe marriage is good and helpful. I believe marriage will help me feel better. I believe marriage will fix all my problems. I believe that I'll be trapped in marriage. Like, if you go just pros and cons, you'll start finding out that there are things in there that you're like, I had no idea that I believed that. For me, like, one of them was that marriage would make me sick. So spend some time looking at what are the subconscious beliefs going on in my world, and then creating some positive ones. Like, I always meet the right people at the right time. I'm always meeting new people. I'm always accepting myself more and drawing people to me who accept myself more, who accept me more. I'm always getting healthier relationships. So I'm always growing. I'm becoming, like, if you have a FU and your doors are shut, like, every day I'm getting better and better at softening towards people I want to date. Every day I'm growing in my capacity to let my walls down. There's so much of beginning to visualize. Like, I visualize me with my walls down and what that would look like.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. And then being able to say it and start creating a different subconscious energy.
Yeah. That's so good. Oh my gosh. All right. So you're all fixed. You heard all these things, and
now everybody will be married.
Be married. And I really glad we had this conversation. We got people married today. Anyways, you guys,
if any of these things triggered you, we actually have 2 courses specifically that are going to be so helpful. They're coming out in the next few weeks. We are going to be talking about them. We've been waiting. One of them we've been waiting for 2 years to release.
Gonna friggin' change your life. Yeah, that's been dragging on for a while, huh?
I know. I didn't plan on getting sick. But so if they triggered you, welcome to humanity. We're all triggered. One thing I do want to leave you with is just hope. I think that so many people who are single can easily lose hope. And that's typically when they choose the wrong type of person to be with, when they do something that feels like they just repeat this or they self-sabotage.
Totally.
And so hope is one of the most important things you can walk away. And so I just want to...
So how about we just sprinkle a little hope over you?
A little hope dust?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's little sprinklings.
They can't see your sprinklings.
It's okay. I'm sprinkling hope dust on you.
Hope dust. Anyway, I actually sometimes we pray on here. So for anyone who's single, God, would you just bring them hope? Would you help them see anything that they can do to remove blocks? And would you give them grace and momentum forward and next steps? Some people just get stuck. They're like, what do I do next? That they just have a divine urge of like, oh, I should just do this one next thing. And God, would you bring people to fall in love together? Amen.
Glad you solidified that with a solid amen. We know it worked.
We know it worked.
Anyways, hey, rate, review, subscribe, and share. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today.
Yeah.
And go tell people about this. Because of you and your guys' promotions, we have over 2 million downloads. So keep downloading. Yeah. And thanks for supporting us. Thanks for being part of our world today.
We like you.
And the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And for the years to come. You're all ours.
Years.
You're never going anywhere.
Years to come.
Forever.
Connect Life forever.